So this is a semifinal. The winner of this will be in the grand finals, which is a best of 5. Loser is, well, just out. Just gone. They don't get anything. Get out of here. Oh, right. I got it. Hold on. Nailed it. In the top left, as the red Protoss, it is Trap. And in the bottom right, as the blue Zerg, it is Scarlett. What is your IG? I think that means Instagram. It's just cats and food. I don't really publicize it that much. But alright, so I haven't seen Scarlett in a while. She was unable to go to Katowice. The rumor was, I'm not sure, I think this is correct, but I'm not 100% sure, was that she would have gone if her team had paid for it, but they didn't want to, and she didn't think it was going to be worthwhile if she paid her own way to it, because she was... Actually, I think she was in Canada. I think she's still... Is she still in Canada? I mean, she's playing in the Korean Cups, maybe not. But she was in Canada for a while. I'm guessing she is back in Korea to be playing in this cup. That's a guess. But anyways. Kind of see your point. I mean, Katowice is such a stacked tournament, and she really does play hot and cold. You know, sometimes she absolutely could get top 16 Katowice, and other times she would go out in the losers round 2 or 3 or something like that.
Subscription received. Apparently you are doing something right, Captain.
I mean, makes sense, but it sucks, right? Because everyone wants to cheer for Scarlett. She's a fan favorite. Thank you very much, Seal Pup. B3B0 for the 3-month resub. And she certainly has a cool playstyle. But Trap, I mean, he was at Katowice. He didn't maybe perform up to people's expectations, but it's kind of been one of those things where it's like he obviously is a very good player. His group was very difficult, and it was a test of all of the matchups. It wasn't just like a 1 Protoss 5 Terran type thing. If that were his group, I actually think he would have done amazing. But I think he didn't even win like all the PVTs he was supposed to. He did do very well against Myra. I know that much at Casted, so like I believe in Trap's PVT. But anyways, he barely didn't make it out. But that's still actually pretty decent, right? Katowice can be so weird as a marker for how well someone is doing because of how long the format is, first of all, and then how much actually rides on every single part of the bracket. Right, if someone gets bombs out in an offline qualifier, we're kind of like, it was a qualifier, who matters? But like it doesn't really tell the whole story, right? If someone bombs out of a group, last place, it's like, oh, I guess they just didn't do very well. Well, they got into that group in the first place, and they actually took off a map from every single player. They just couldn't get the series, like, you know what I mean? And then if someone gets like 4th but not top 3, then it's so easy to just exclude them, even though their actual place is higher because they got top 4. But yeah. Point is, Trap's still a very good player, and I think he will take the series. So far, I've been mostly correct when I've said that. Astray vs. Ragnarok, I don't think I actually gave a prediction, but it doesn't surprise me that Ragnarok won. I just wasn't expecting the pretty swift 2-0 that it was. I got a Dark Shrine Robo Warp Prism. I don't know what that means. Archon drop going to come through here. Has Scarlett actually scouted much of this, though? No, she has not. So all she's seen is a handful of Adepts and a Stalker. She might misread this as an Adept attack, just because the Adept count is growing, and usually if you are doing Resonant Glaives, you warp in nothing but Adepts, right? And then you have more Adepts used with Resonant Glaives. Like, oh man, that's magic. How does that work? And the Stalker is used just to like bully back scouting, right? But she does have a lair. So the lack of Spore Crawlers isn't worrying yet. And she also just made an Overseer as well. So All right. Either she was still a little bit waffly about what it actually was, or she did know. Either way, she does beat it back pretty quickly. And oh no, what is happening here? Whoa, 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 whoa! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh jeez! Oh no! I'm so surprised he held position that. That is so weird. I didn't realize that was something that Protoss players do with their Warp Prism. It's usually get the hell out of dodge and then come back later. That's bad news. That's, it didn't just lose the warp-ins, the DTs. It didn't just lose the opportunity to do Archon drops, which is, like, mostly the point of the opener here. It also loses the opportunity to keep the Zerg feeling like they're being pressured. And now Scarlett doesn't have to worry about any harassment or any, like, follow-up all-in that's swift at all, at the very least. She also did see the third Nexus, but yeah, like, there's, like, not much to worry about here, so big loss right there. And it was so weird to see that. He specifically held position it. You know, occasionally you send it off to the left side and, like, doesn't go quite as far as you thought you pressed, but it moves when it's attacked. He held position it. Oh, man. Scarlett getting a little bit lucky with that one. Following this up into some fairly quick charge and getting that forge, which is something Estrella wasn't doing. And I still wonder if that was him prepping for his own follow-up attack very quickly, or he knew he was about to be attacked, and yeah, the Immortals were just very unfortunate. But regardless, this is more of what I anticipated seeing in that follow-up. He does have another Warp Prism, you kind of have to, but isn't going to fill that up with Archons, or that is continue to do some Adept drops. Scarlett looks like she's going to go for an attack. Her creep spread, of course, is already pretty far out there, so she can even bring a couple of Queens along. I mean, a little bit comically, but it could work out. War Prism is not going to be able to help on the defense if it's not recalled, and I do think the recall was very important. I think Lucid Phoenix saw the rallying roaches, and Trap knew what was up. He needs to be able to juggle those Immortals. Force fields could come down to buy just a little bit of time here. Shield batteries are, I mean, 2 of them are already done. So 2 more are actually finishing up. Trap had actually every idea this is happening. And those Adepts, I didn't think they were going to get, maybe they got like 5 drones, but they got 12 drones. It's actually very nice, because the War Prism obviously didn't have to sacrifice itself that time to do that. I'm already feeling really good for Trap here. Like, the engagement has hardly even started, and I'm already feeling this is Trap's game. We'll see. Scarlett maybe gets, maybe... She's not even rallying with Lings, so there's not even really a way that she gets a surround here. Alright, well, the natural is open. Another Immortal pops out, though. The Force Fields are still available to buy, again, just a little bit of time before the Corrosive Bios come down. The Queens aren't really helping a whole lot here. And the more time buys, more Trap buys time buys Trap. I don't think it's going to happen. The better it should look for him as the Roaches just get worse and worse over time, especially with the upgrade finishing. +1 is close to finishing, but it's not here right now. The Roaches run into an Archon, which is microed away anyway, so maximum damage from the Archons here. The Immortals still trying to take care of the actual numbers of Roaches because they're all low, but they're not quite dead. But they are starting to die here, and the juggling is in effect. Charge-outs come in as well. 2 Immortals on the high ground, too. And I do believe that Trap is going to hold, but it wasn't as clean as I thought it was going to be. And in fact, with these Immortals getting jumped upon, some Lings added to the mix, it is still a little bit scary. Where are the reinforcements? Trap, where are your Warpins? I guess 6 gateways wasn't enough. But damn, he's even trying to warp in DTs now, and Archon's got to be the option, right? No, he's going to go for the direct attack. I mean, DTs do add a lot of damage if they're not being focus fired down immediately. Ooh, Scarlett's really making a game out of this. Couple of, oh, actually 3 warp-ins have been depowered, and he was only on 6 to begin with, so maybe that's why he hasn't had a lot of warp-ins. That bank is going to haunt him if he ends up losing this game, but is he going to lose the game? 4 Immortals to juggle, although some of them are very, very weak. A 5th Immortal comes out here. The probes are actually pulled into this, provide buffer for the Immortals, and this is getting so damn close. 16 workers have died, but that still actually puts Trap in the lead by 2 workers. And he still has all those Immortals left alive. Looks like the 5th one did die, but 4 Immortals still alive. And they're all regaining their shields as well. 5th Immortal on the way, more gateways on the way. He's finally using that bank, and he can start building probes again. I think they both realize that the game isn't going to quite end here in either one's favor. So Scarlett's going to add on a Spire, which she will probably have enough time to actually get to. And Trap is going to try and rebuild his probe line. Oh, that's right. She is streaming. She's actually streaming right now. So I'm sure many of you are watching on a multi-stream or something like that. Lings it into the natural, or the third base rather, but gets dragged into an Archon. So not too much to be said there. Well, contamination on an Observer. It's a better use of the Overseer than absolutely nothing at all. Scarlett not only adding on a Spire, but also a Baneling Nest. So that really adds a lot of complexity to the Zerg army. But the mutas, how many mutas can she even afford? The answer is like 4. Not necessarily worth going into. Lots of more roaches on the way instead of banking up for the Spire as well. DT's going to collect a couple of drone kills before it perishes. More than a couple. 6, not too bad. But doesn't get into the main base to see the Spire. And that would have been ideal there for Trap, just to give some ideas to what's going on. He does have cannons. Nope, just singular. He has a cannon in his third. But nowhere else. 5 mutas. I mean, they really can't do very much, but to an open probe line, a defenseless probe line, of course they can do something. And I guess that's all they really have to do. That and keeping Trap at home and keeping tabs on Trap's army as well as she builds up a better army herself. The Baneling Nest seems to be canceled and then restarted. Maybe the DT canceled it and I missed it. Either way, it's still the idea. Get to Banelings. Trying to catch the Observer, that's probably never gonna happen. Blink +2 on the way. Storm as well, all being chronoed here too. Scarlett is still only on 3 bases, not quite reaching for the 4th. I feel like she could maybe try and at least get the 4th. Maybe not drones for the 4th, but maybe she'll plant it down in the future. But she's just trying to get maxed out right now. But starting the +1 melee. The mutas do not do a whole lot because by the time they actually came across the map, it looks like a cannon was done. So forget about defenseless probe line. Now those mutas are just like anti-war prism duty, I guess. Kind of a questionable use of ended up being 700 if you include the Spire. What are you doing in there? What are the Archons doing in here? I guess they're gonna chase around the mutas. That makes sense, actually. But the muta count is not actually growing, which I think at this point Trap has figured out. You know, he saw 5 mutas here, he saw 5 mutas to the right side as well. That means not making any more mutas. Or they're being very tricky in hiding them, but probably not making any more mutas. If they're not making mutas, they're either doing something really silly, like going towards a very fast hive, which, not a good idea. Or they're maxing out on a ground army, which, very good idea. That's exactly what Scarlett's doing. She is grabbing a 4th base. As I said, maybe not enough drones to really saturate it, but it's there as an option. It's there for a transfer in the future. She does add on a couple more mutas. Maybe just getting just enough to pop Immortal Shields, to focus fire down the War Prism. Maybe she saw the High Templars, and she's like, okay, I really need to get rid of those storms. And Trap's the type of guy who's going to put them in the War Prism. But just 2 more mutas. Just 2 more. Lots of units going out across the map. Getting intel on what's going on, but also setting up for some harassment, I suppose. Those mutas trying to do their best. Actually, get a Zealot. I applaud you, mutas. Give you a little golf clap right there. And no one going for an attack. I mean, it'd be possible for Trap to attack into Scarlett, but it just would be very scary to do so, especially because the creep spread is in the middle of the map. And she is on Banelings, which is the anticipated composition. I feel like clearing up at least a couple of the creep tumors would actually be a good use of Trap's time, though. I like seeing the +1 shields as opposed to +3 attack. It's going to be adding in a decent amount of Archons. Oh, the muta's not going to really be able to help out against that War Prism. Still don't know if that's exactly their plan, but they're not in strong enough numbers to tear down a 4th base. The Ling's also going to find a dozen Zealots waiting for them, so that's a no-go. And what was that? 1 creep tumor? 1 little creep tumor got killed there. Otherwise, pretty passive. Trap, because Trap is good AF. That does explain some imbalances you might see in a game. Is someone playing off? Maybe. That's, you know, of course, gonna happen. People have bad days. But is someone else just really damn good? Yeah, that happens a lot too. Now the Observer has been flying around nonstop is finally cleared up by the mutas. And also, was that the only Observer? No, there's one with the army. Like, yeah, like, it's not as impactful I don't think you can really compare the threat of Banelings versus Protoss versus the threat of Banelings versus Marines. But you can compare them, I guess. But it would be... Maybe the Terran bias is speaking, but like, yeah, there's a reason that creep spread is the most important thing. One of the most important things. And in PvZ is like kind of an important thing. But either way, you do not want to give Zerg intel to set up that big surround, know exactly where your army is. And you do not want the Banelings to have their speed boost. Like, that's just, nope. No matter what race you are, you don't want that to happen. Even ZVZ. if they're going mass Baneling, you actually want to kill your own creep tumors. So they don't just pounce on you. And Scarlett's not going to be quick to replacing those. Again, not like ZVT, which should have a bunch of queens on the front line. In fact, her queens are all trying to inject and maybe defend against some zealot harassment. No inject over here, but she has that... Oh, I thought she got a macro hatchery. Maybe that was some other game on this map. Wow. Or maybe just the little trifecta of buildings confused me. I'm not sure, but okay. No, so she could have a larva problem in the future. She is going off of a pretty Ling-based, oh my good god, Ling-based composition, but point is she needs to have these hatcheries all alive, and I would guess injecting, but she's actually going towards a greater spire. So she's not attacking, she's just defending here. Trap really has to be careful with how he decides to engage into this, because he can't just go willy-nilly onto creep. He will get bopped. Both play. I mean, for Scarlett, she could have done just that whole, like, just continue attacking, and then maybe once it's all said and done, desperately go for a greater spire. She could have, and maybe it does work. Multi-pronged harassment, some drops, something like that happens as well. But Trap was pretty well set up defensively, and it's kind of the same situation in the other way. Trap also maybe could have gone for like a 180 push, or a little bit sooner than that, and tried to control the game, maybe hit the fourth base, with this choke on his side type deal. But Scarlett was set up rather well defensively with a lot of creep spread to both help these Banelings, who barely save the fourth base, but also to prepare those surrounds that she will need to take on an army like this. Corruptors are on the way, carriers are on the way, both of them upgrading, although Scarlett not adding any upgrades to her greater spire quite yet, where those carriers are going to have at least +1 flyer attack. Broodlord's on the way. We're actually going to get to a very late game PvZ. This is actually really weird. It feels weird. Because most of the time, especially with this composition here, maybe, Roach Hydra Lurker is a bit different, but most of the time with Roach Ravager and Ling Baneling, you just have an attack at some point, and multiple attacks. This has been mostly defense from her. 5 Broodlord's done a lot, but as she loses supply, she'll probably commit more to that. More Spine Claws are on the way and a very aggressive blink forward. Forward is dangerous to do against Banelings. Like, Trap knows there's more Banelings available. He's trying to get those juicy storms of the War Prism, and there's not much that Scarlett can do against that since the Mutas have died. But Corruptors, more Corruptors are on the way. All of them turn into Broodlords, now adding more Corruptors. She's going to have to add more than that when she sees that carriers are actually on the way. And since it's been so passive, I think both of them are under the correct impression that they're both going to be going into that actual late game PvZ. They both need to deal with air. And eventually, primarily air. But not right now. Right now, we're still on a lot of ground army, which is currently being stormed. The War Prism, again, not being targeted down. The Corruptors are here now, but the War Prism retreats to safety, and so many storms coming out is going to scare Scarlett's army away on the ground, but more Broodlords being added on. Every time she loses a chunk of units, kind of freebie Archon right there, Corrosive Biles, another storm hitting a portion of that army. Broodlords actually getting split here. There are some rare scenarios without Stargate, without Tempest. You can actually kill Broodlords with Storm and Archons, but ooh, the carriers are here. The blink back to run away from those Banelings, which are getting pretty good shots, actually. The Protoss army was so clumped up. Trap was so aggressive with his army. And maybe it's good enough. The carriers focus firing down the Broodlords with their +1 attack are doing a fantastic job of that. The Blink Stalkers actually blink forward as well to ensure their death. And while that will still lose a lot of those Stalkers, the carriers reign supreme. Scarlett doesn't have quite enough of a gas bank to go for as many Corruptors as she would have liked. There's more carriers, at least one more carrier on the way, and that War Prism is still alive, and that's a big bummer, actually, because if that War Prism's not here, it's a guaranteed leave, and maybe she could even chase after some of these carriers, but even just a simple Stalker Warpin and the threat of more Stalker Warpins means that she has to defend. She has to just hope that she's not being pushed into. But that was a very expensive army to lose, and she was not on the best economy, only just now getting to a 5th base. Man, with Trap being so far forward, I actually thought that was going to turn on him, but even with the Banelings getting some decent connections, they were connecting on units that can take naturally just a lot of hits from them, right? And he did manage to blink back into a concave that was good enough to start to take better trades against that ground army. And well, the Broodlord army actually had nothing to defend it. You know, the fact that those carriers could actually right-click on, shift-click on the Broodlords and kill them as fast as they did is, I mean, if that didn't happen, if she lost the entire ground army, but her 8 Broodlords are alive, she probably prefers that. Although ideally... Ideally, she just straight up wins the fight, but that definitely didn't happen. Trap should be feeling very comfy. 5, 6 bases, actually. Scarlett's starting to add in some of those spellcasters, trying to turn the tides with a, you know, miracle fungal, miracle parasitic bomb, but actually Trap doesn't even have to go into pure carrier. He's still adding in a lot of ground army. I'm not sure how much the spellcasters are going to help against that, as Scarlett is struggling on that supply. Down 30 supply. Her infestors have not quite popped. She's going to be forced to cancel that 5th base once again, it looks like. I would imagine so. Cancel. Yeah, she just taps out instead. GG. As I said, not the game I was expecting. When you see Roach Ravager, Ling Banling, it's supposed to be about an attack. But I don't think that means that it has to or it's bad. But maybe that was a game where that's an example of why they would usually just consistently attack. How did I miss with my teabag?
Hostile forces detected. Arming raid defenses.
Thank you very much, Puck. Or should I say Nina, for the raid. I'm guessing there's a request for a name change from Twitch. I'm actually not sure how that works. But I know it's possible. Yeah. I think those people banging on someone's door, I'm not even sure it was mine anymore. Whoever was banging on a door, I think, was trying to be let in by a friend, and they were drunk. But I'm not 100% sure. They could have been angrily yelling at me, and I just didn't hear them. I don't think these headsets are that soundproof, but it's possible. So I'm trying not to yell. So we have some, like, hushed excitement. I'm fairly sure that people across the hall can't hear me. I've never had complaints from the person who lives next to me, and she's been there since I moved in. But I don't know about the people below me. There might actually not have been someone living there initially, and maybe they moved in or something. Or maybe it was just someone else's problem. But gotta tell you, it's kind of spooky to hear some loud, aggressive knocking on anyone's door at 3 in the morning. Just usually not a great sign, you know? Alright, in the bottom left, up 1, it is Trap. In the top right is the blue Zerg, it's Scarlett. It's going to be on Zen for game number 2. Kind of a weird game, that first game, wasn't it? Like, we had about 2 or 3 minutes where nothing really happened, so it seemed kind of boring for a while, but let's remember the first stages of the game, where Trap lost his Warp Prism because he held position it. I feel like that is usually catastrophic. That's when the pro gamers all shout that he's 100% dead. And I'm kind of struggling to remember what happened. Oh, right. Scarlett tried to do an all-in. Yeah, okay. yeah. Yeah, I mean, losing the Warp Prism is definitely bad. It is. But Scarlett's attack just didn't quite work out. Trap had a lot of advance notice. You know, with all those shield batteries already being done. He had 2 already finished, so I guess he, like, anticipated it. And then 2 finishing once he realized it was definitely happening. Was, I mean, a really good call. And then good use of the army positioning. So that he was barely able to hold, but barely able to hold with a decent number of Immortals and a Warp Prism available, which we all know is the magic combination. So let's not forget that happens. It kind of set things in flux for a while there, but did return the favor to Trap. Scarlett, one of the reasons she's a fan favorite is that she just does like weird stuff. It's fun to watch Scarlett play, especially if she does end up upsetting some of the Koreans, one of the initial Korean killers back in the day when that was more of a term. But yeah, she's got some fun strats. So instead of going for the hatchery off to the 3rd base because of the pylon block, or the pro block, actually no pylon came down, she goes for a proxy hatch. But it did feel a little bit late. I don't know if that was actually initially her plan. It's something that Trap also realized, bouncing between natural and 3rd base and seeing nothing at all. Something he realized was happening and eventually scouted. He had already gone for no Nexus once he realized something was up, and now it's just finishing his shield batteries. This feels like it's pretty good for Trap. Knocks on doors are pretty much exclusively drunk people. Yeah, I'd imagine so. I've never been drunk in a residential area. I know that's like a very funny sentence, but I'm pretty sure it's true. It's always like a city, like in a hotel or at a bar. Anyways. Lings want to get that to rounds, not just to keep them away from the shield batteries. The shield batteries got range, right? So they can't really do that, but to actually get just maximized amount of damage, and also hopefully keep them trapped in range of these spine crawlers. That would be the best scenario here for Scarlett. But Trap's very good about not letting that happen. He's going to try and just get as many gateways as possible so they can actually tear down not just Lings, which are now engaging on top of his units, but in a not ideal way, but also these spine crawlers. Many of the shield batteries are out of juice. There's 2 more shield batteries being built behind this as Trap realizes he's going to lose his front line. But while the Lings round wasn't the most ideal thing I've ever seen, it actually didn't do so poorly. I mean, they was on top of 2 Zealots for the most part, but they were able to chew through, and Scarlett is just continuing to reinforce with these Lings. Trap has apparently no plans to add on more technology to this. Like, his plan is just to get a decent number of units, which I think is actually a good call a lot of the time. Sometimes people just think immediately to an Immortal because they're thinking about the spine crawlers, when really the complication is Lings. Their surrounds on your units, especially an Immortal who doesn't have a Warp Prism to save it, is what's bad. But if you can actually get a number of units that isn't afraid of the Ling surrounds, and can even, like, maybe one-shot the spine crawlers eventually, well then, maybe you feel a little bit better. Shield batteries not just finishing on the south side, but also the east side. 3 of them, in fact. But, ooh, there's so much damage coming down on these stalkers, especially with the spine crawlers involved, that the shield batteries aren't quite cutting it. And I'm afraid that Trap, I feel like maybe if he had just not taken engagements, if he had just, like, had all of the stalkers that he just lost, like, imagine if he has 3 more stalkers, 4 more zealots, because he didn't really take engagements, he just poked and prodded. I feel like that would be better than what's happened so far. And we actually have a pretty good surround coming down there. Lots of zealots getting encompassed, plus a stalker. And the spine crawlers are getting the maximum amount of damage. Trap is trying so hard to continue producing here, but he never got that natural nexus. And his gateway count's actually been called a little bit as well as the spine crawlers continue to advance forward. We're gonna need another creep tumor soon, if she plans to advance here, but yeah, Trap's not gonna be able to actually cut it. GG. You know, one of the best case scenarios there is to actually, like, beat out the production of the Zerg for the very beginning of that attack. Because at the very beginning, they don't have a lot. You know, they're rallying from across the map, their spine crawlers aren't done, their queen isn't injecting, whatever. So if you can get on top of it, that's, you know, one of the best ways to deal with it. But if you don't, then it is one of those things that just teeter-totters over into the Zerg's favor as they start breaking down your production and your technology. Yes, tower defense, yeah. Well, it's all tied up now. Actually, one of the first... It wasn't the first event I went to, but one of the first, I guess, was a Red Bull DC, which was near me. And I was actually back when Trap was first appearing as one of the best Protosses. And then he kind of fell off for a while, and now he's back and whatever. But yeah, that's when he first appeared up and was playing around the world and all that. Actually, Cure as well. And Scarlett was also there. I don't think they had any infamous battles during that Red Bull Battlegrounds, though. I don't think so. I don't think Red Bull DC actually had that many amazing games. Everyone knows Red Bull New York, which was, I think, literally the first event I went to. I got a media pass from the team I was casting for. Clarity Gaming? Is that what it was called? And a media pass was so cool. Actually, no, that couldn't have been a first... That couldn't have been the first one I went to, because I accidentally went to IEM New York because I was going to Comic-Con. So that's the first one I went into. For some reason or another, I was I invited up there? I think I was invited up there. Oh my god, it's like such a throwback moment right now. I think Clarity Gaming was like, yeah, come up and do some like interviews. Yeah, I interviewed Golden. And we'll like help you with the train ticket, and you can just stay over at the Clarity Gaming House. That didn't end up working out, not because they didn't let me, which would have been really mean of them, but because it was like a 2-hour like car ride or something insane, 2-hour car ride out to the beach, and that's where their house was. And I was like, that sounds like a drag. And I had made friends with a chick who was there, so I just slept over at her place instead. Anyways, that was the famous Red Bull Battlegrounds with Scarlett versus Bomber. And I think I'll always remember that, because I was in the media room and everyone was hyped about it, and I actually kind of missed the explosive moment because there was a tiny ass TV monitor where you couldn't really get like an amazing position to actually see what was going on. So I think I looked away and it just, yeah. Everyone suddenly screamed. I was like, what happened? And it was like one of the burrowed banelings. Cool event though. It was also before I knew Scarlett. She like came into the media room and I was like, holy crap, that's Scarlett. And then that was kind of the extent. Are you guys contractually supposed to have a 2-minute delay? Yeah. You are definitely supposed to. If there's a caster who doesn't have a stream delay, then you should tell them to put one on. As far as the players streaming the gameplay themselves, there's actually no requirement for them. The stream delay is so no one stream cheats, but you kind of let the players take the risk themselves. If they want to stream, they have to take that risk. So if you're talking about Scarlett's stream, then yeah, don't bother telling her. Are you single? What a dumb question to ask. What a dumb question. Twilight Council's on the way for Trap. Scarlett not going to go for any super early shenanigans this time. Perhaps that's the one, not get out of jail free card, but the one trick card she has, or maybe it was just a very ideal map for the scenario. Or maybe she was just really pissed at having her hatch blocked. You know, whatever option there is. But more towards a standard 3 hatch in this game. Excuse me, my cat's on the keyboard, as usual. So eventually Scarlett's going to figure out that it's not Oracle. Well, that's not the right... Oh, no, stop it. Oh, God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. That it's not an Oracle. It's not a Stargate. And she's eventually going to figure out that it's... Well, unfortunately, the timing might work out kind of similarly to the Archon drop versus the Adept attack. You really want to actually get in there and see if the Twilight Council is researching to get a clear idea of what it is. Otherwise, you're looking towards kind of like gas geyser timings, right? Usually 3:30 for a Stargate play, and then kind of like right now for the Archon drop, I think is what Trap did last game. So that can kind of give you a hint, but you really just wish you could get into the main base and see its resonating glaives. It has kind of risen up in popularity again. I mean, thanks Zest, candidates say all that stuff, but is she thinking about that? Well, the Warp Prism shows itself to the Lings, which, by the way, there's like a billion placed right here. She really was intent on seeing if there's a Warp Prism coming out. But, okay, it looks like she didn't even have drones at that third base. My bad, never mind. I thought she pulled them away, but she didn't even have it there. So she knows where the Warp Prism went. She can have her units in more appropriate locations, and she's actually going to be able to jump on top of these Adepts. So a little bit of a misclick with those roaches, but there we go. Jump on top of these Adepts, hopefully before they really enter into that mineral line. She maybe misses a better opportunity to tear down these Adepts faster, and she's not pulling the drones away either, but 6 drones is not that bad to lose. Now, Trap did go for the 4-gate version. It's not like super all in. He added on the gases basically as the attack started. And he's looking for just a lot of time that she's not getting to drone, getting to mine. Maybe not necessarily the actual direct drone kills, because that seems to be a little out of the possibilities at this point. She's a little too prepared for that to actually suddenly grow up into 20 drone kills, right? Or maybe not. But if you are going to commit for those 20 drone kills, then you got to be prepared for the counterattack. You all know how that works, especially with Adepts. But, I didn't think about that option. But obviously it's an option. The hatchery ends up getting targeted. Maybe Scarlett also was a little bit late to realizing what Trap's plan was, but that goes down. But it didn't go down with that much of a fight. And in fact, Scarlett was able to slice off a couple of those Adepts before they recalled, so maybe she can just go across the map and try and make something happen. It just really sucks, because while she has Roach Speed, and that's great, she was committing to Aspire. So she doesn't have a lot of Roaches here. In fact, the Lings are staying at home. Perhaps, I mean, most likely to deal with this Warp Prism that is, in fact, coming across the map once again. She's going to position her Queens and her Lings. Exactly what's happening here. But unfortunately, the Roach numbers just aren't there to combat any number of Immortals. Mutas are on the way. Again, starting off with a pretty low number. And getting that +1 melee. This will deal with the Warp Prism, obviously, but also have some potential for killing probes. Looks like Trap was unable to scout the Spire, but there's been I feel, noticeable lack of Roaches. Maybe I'm looking a bit too much into it, but I feel like if that was truly all the Roaches you had right there, that's not that impressive. So you might be thinking about other options, and Aspire was used in the last game. Sorry, the first game. And it could be used in this game. Double Hussein Phoenix to get that confirmed scouts. But it's a little bit late. The Mutas are already here. They're already chasing after that Warp Prism. So thanks a lot, Hussein Phoenix. It really helps. The Warp Prism has even tried to deposit the Adepts. As Trap is a lot more focused on getting his defenses up. So he's already on a blink. He's already on a +1. But now he's adding on a couple of cannons. Maybe a shield battery here and there. And that'll set up your defenses against the early number of Mutas. It's a very effective way to deal with early number of Mutas. No, the cannon's actually not done here, but Blink is almost done. Maybe she grabs like 6 probes before she skedaddles. Actually a sentry as well. Oh, 5 probes and a sentry, really not too bad. And most of the Mutas are actually alive here and regaining that health very fast. Thanks, Heart of the Swarm. That's when they were given that increased health regen. Gonna go after another sentry, the one with Guardian Shield too. Blink forward to try and grab at least one of those mutas. It does not work out. Up to 14 mutas, going on to 15 mutas now. She's actually starting that ball rolling in her favor. Whereas in that first game, the mutas were pretty lame. Let's be real, they were pretty lame. These mutas are what you would hope would happen. And they're still not quite dying. Finally, one gets picked off. But that soccer count's still not high enough. Only just now with that +1 attack to actually tear down more than one. She had a little roaming pack of units ready to attack a natural that could be possibly undefended, but actually Trap was able to predict that. He's getting to charge, getting the +2, but Scarlett should be getting to a 4th base. There it is. Lots of gases, and probably just massing up her ground army after these last few mutas. I don't know if she'll go past 20 mutas with +1. That's pretty deadly already. But we'll see what a decision is. Either she could go for more mutas, or she could go ahead and just max out on that ground army, which would be Ling Baneling with a handful of Ravagers. Either option actually is probably fine. The thing is that Trap did not go for Stargates to defend against this. He really couldn't. He didn't have that much advance notice, and he didn't really slap it down as hard either as that first game. So it's hard to get to double Stargate when you've already let them get to this point. But it is possible. It's only, possible as long as you keep your economy up, you keep your units alive, because you're not going to be able to afford everything here, plus double Stargate, plus Fleet Beacon, and then also the actual Phoenix have to come out, right, to actually combat these mutas. It's a long process, and it might be a little bit too late. Actually, Scarlett taking this engagement is a little surprising, but it looks like it's going to work out for her. The Immortals on the front line had their shields popped and just weren't very effective against the Lings anyways, which did have that +1 done. The Stalkers were able to free fire for the most part, but there weren't that many of them. A lot of them, I guess, trapped in the natural. It's Trap. And more being warped in, but not there necessarily for the fight. So she takes a very good attack right there. Took a chunk of army off. All the sentries died as well, so no more Guardian Shield to help out against any of these units. And Trap is desperately trying to get to, well, another 7 X-Core, because apparently he's died, but also to the Phoenix, because that's the only way to really, truly combat the mutas, which are up to almost 30, by the way. Oh, gosh, you're going to go up to 35. You need Phoenix with the range. You need, like, 6 of them at least with range. If you don't have that, then you're basically forced to base trade, and that's only if you have enough of an army to even do that, which at this point, Trap does not have that army. I do believe Scarlett's going to take this series. Is looking so in her favor, and she's still committing to those mutas. She's going to be able to take out the Phoenix eventually, or she can just go dive into the main and take out the means of production. Either way. She does go after the Phoenix. One lives, but only temporarily. The Stalker's going to go down here. The Glaive Worm's doing so much damage right now. And Scarlett is almost max, doubling the supply of her opponent. This is going to be it. GG. GG, WP. I actually thought Trap was going to be able to take that series, but she gained the momentum back very quickly. It was an abrupt turnaround when that hatchery proxy actually worked. And then, yeah, it was good.